Welcome, age of vintage society. Oskar Werner may indeed be boyishly attractive in a quiet, guarded way if the camera caught him just right. He gained roles as sensitive, troubled men thanks to his kind demeanour and soulful eyes. He intrigued us for a while because he was distant, if not at times cold, often depressed, and oh so temperamental. Why, Hollywood treated Oskar Werner like a piece of meat. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. In the 90s, Oskar Werner was regarded as Austria's greatest living actor, frequently named in the same sentence as Laurence Olivier. His several portrayals of Hamlet received recognition as some of the best in contemporary German-language theatre. He eventually made appearances in more than 100 plays in Germany and was always regarded as more of a stage actor than a performer in motion pictures. You may learn all about Oskar Werner's adventures in this video. Oskar Werner was born in Vienna in 1922 and was an only child. His father abandoned the family when he was 6 years old. His mother worked in a hat factory to provide for the two of them. He spent a lot of time with his grandmother, who consoled him with fascinating stories about the Burg Theatre, which is Austria's counterpart to the Old Vic in England. He developed an interest in acting quite quickly, and he was soon acting in school plays. At the age of 11, he decided he wanted to be an actor and quit school. He was the youngest actor to join the Burg Theatre when he was 18 years old, and he soon began portraying roles in youthful romantic comedies. He appeared in a couple of German and Austrian war movies as a walk-on thanks to an uncle. He regrettably was recruited into the German army the same year he joined the theatre. Oskar acted like a nutcase, and the military decided he was unfit for combat because he was a strong opponent of Nazism and a pacifist. As a result, he spent about a year peeling potatoes and cleaning bathrooms, but indeed that's not what he was made for. He married half-Jewish actress Elisabeth Kalina secretly in 1944. By year's end he had quit the army and had taken his wife and infant daughter into the Vienna woods, where they had hidden from everyone, including the Germans and Russians. Werner returned to the Burg Theatre after the war and performed in a variety of plays for several years. He appeared in the movies more frequently in 1948 than he had before. They were all Austrian-German businesses that were mainly unknown in the United States. Werner also started directing plays. After noticing him in one of his movies, American filmmaker Anatoly Litvak considered him for a role in a future movie at 20th Century Fox. Werner seemed hopeful that a studio contract might be included. He seemed excited about the recognition that acting in American movies would provide. But along with this opportunity, his life brought an unhappy chapter. The Werner marriage experienced an unexpected outcome as a result of all this conversation about coming to America. Kalina divorced him in 1950 rather than starting a new chapter in their relationship. Werner did drink a lot, and one suspects that his alcoholism contributed to their marriage and divorce. He had been a strong drinker for years and was 32 at the time. And after alcoholism he was more depressed, bitter and stubborn. Fortunately, maybe for their kid, the couple kept in touch. Werner earned enough praise from Fox for them to offer him a 7-year contract. The film studio appeared to share his desire to launch a successful English-language career. They chose him for the movie Decision Before Dawn. He portrays a German POW who is employed by the Allies to spy on the Germans from behind enemy lines. He would, ironically, go back to Germany to film it. Have you watched that movie? You'll be shocked at how wonderful it was if you watch it. It even received an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. It features two overlooked actors, Richard Basehart and Gary Merrill, and it appeared as though Werner might gain some well-deserved recognition for his role as a cunning spy. He got along well with his co-stars and everything looked good, though in the future there were only disappointments for him, but not before meeting his second wife. He met Anne Power, Tyrone Power's adoptive daughter, and the real daughter of French actress Annabella, on the set, and the two were married in 1954. After a couple of years, Werner pulled out of his contract and rushed out of the country, without having been in any other movies and without any talk of launching one. He kicked and punched Hollywood for treating him like a piece of meat and for the studio's broken promise to him. Although they were aware of his drinking problems, it is unknown what they thought of it. Perhaps too much of his negative attitude was on display. He declared that he wouldn't come back until it was on his terms. He refused to budge, and as a result, unlike many other male European performers, his American career never took off. Werner only produced 19 films in all, excluding voice roles and uncredited work. There were just 7 that spoke English. A year before his passing, he did eventually make it back to the United States to shoot his best movie and appear as guest performer on Columbo. With the premiere of the French New Wave romance drama Jules et Jim, Werner achieved global recognition in 1962. The public and critics in Europe adored it. The French were fortunate to be able to communicate their desires, fears, independence and free expression. The world was opening up to French cinema at around this exciting time. It is a story about an impulsive bohemian woman, played by Jeanne Moreau, who has intimate relationships with 2 men who are friends, Jules, played by Werner, and Jim, played by Henri Serre. The story is set in the years leading up to World War I. The story, which François Truffaut wrote, produced and directed, has numerous facets and undoubtedly had an impact. Everyone was bringing up Jules, Jim and Catherine in conversation. You might be interested in Moreau and Werner's upcoming projects because of their subdued, occasionally gloomy intensity. In 1965, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, Jean le Carrier's first novel, was adapted on the big screen with Richard Burton, Claire Bloom and Werner as the leads. A masterful portrayal of spying during the Cold War era can be found in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. The story focuses on how an MI6 officer named Alec Lemus tried to get the attention of the East German intelligence service by engaging in a dangerous plan in which he appears to fall into an alcoholic and depressive spiral. He will be approached as a potential source of sensitive information with the intention of acting as a traitor and sowing strife within the enemy's ranks. Director Martin Ritt creates a world where deception has long since replaced sincerity in gloomy black and white images and a sense of overpowering moral decay. Every surface is covered in hopelessness, which has a sticky coating of spiritual dirt, and any indication of joy is frowned upon. Richard Burton portrays Lemus as a man full of fire and rage, a burning volcano of theatrical misery amidst such hopelessness. His acting is purposely extravagant, and the kind that fills the screen and drifts on the edge of absurd misery. Burton is fantastic in the part, but if the other performers don't provide enough counterbalance, his approach could be dangerous. Oskar Werner, who joins the story after the halfway mark, gives The Spy Who Came In From the Cold the perfect balance. When Lemus reaches East Germany, Fiedler, played by Werner, becomes his primary interrogator. He converses with the British man frequently during the course of the scene, attempting to learn the truth about his motivations and the accuracy of the information he provides. Fiedler is a startling presence, charismatic and casual, when one would expect him to be like a predator sniffing for blood. He is uniquely dressed in leather and a jaunty hat. He holds his body in a polite manner, fills the room, and provides lots of opportunities for his prisoner to expose himself. Werner has been more relaxed throughout than anybody else on the cast, even giving this dark play with only cheerful smiles and brief sparks of movie star charisma. Fiedler's attitude seems to be a practised thing, a weapon of the smart interrogator, rather than an expression of the man's character, but this hints at itself constantly. Whether his tenderness is genuine or not, it has been excellently utilized. What counts is how he considers Lemus's advice, draws his conclusions, and implements them. Werner radiates the power of a man who doesn't see the point in overplaying his hand or showing his power to others, especially while sharing scenes with Burton alone. He is a patriot, a believer in his own goodness, and possibly too smart for his own good. For his work, Werner was nominated for a BAFTA and won a Golden Globe. It is a remarkable achievement for some actors to be nominated for both the leading and supporting categories at the same Oscar ceremony. This Austrian actor came very close to earning a nomination for The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, in the supporting actor category. He received a nomination for Best Actor in the same year for his performance in Ship of Fools. Oskar portrayed a ship's doctor with a drinking and cardiac condition. He appeared in some of the movie's best scenes alongside Simone Signoret, who was also nominated for an Oscar. He participated in that category alongside Richard Burton, who he starred as co-star in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. As destiny would have it, Lee Marvin, Cat Ballou, defeated both men. Despite countless chances, neither Werner nor Burton would ever receive an Oscar. But still, the Oscar nomination allowed him to land the starring position in Fahrenheit 451. Julie Christie, his leading actress, had just received the Oscar the year before. Werner probably paused for a moment to celebrate his luck. The sci-fi thriller and dystopian drama was directed by Truffaut once more in his sole English-language production. Moreover, it is based on the well-known book by Ray Bradbury. It is set in a future totalitarian state where the firefighters, a group tasked with destroying all literature, are employed by the government. The government is opposed to all free thought and has taken it upon itself to have the authority to remove, question, and even burn anyone's books and some property. Firefighter Werner, who is married, encounters a young woman who disagrees with the government's approach. He starts accumulating books to read. His wife supports the government more. Can you imagine the possible outcomes? By the way, Christie portrays both women. The relationship between Werner and Truffaut became hostile at some point during the filming and never recovered. Truffaut had the guts to try and control Werner, who refused to follow orders and accept directions. Werner responds with arrogance on the screen and on the set when Truffaut tells him to calm down and stop being so heroic. He even intentionally trimmed his hair short before filming the final scene to break continuity. Truffaut referred to it as his most challenging production. The picture wasn't a hit with everyone, despite Bernard Herrmann's immensely gifted musical score, and since you may not enjoy it at all, there are some camps where it is undoubtedly seen as a bore. Werner was harsh for most of his life because of the experience of working on Fahrenheit 451. It undoubtedly led to his drinking more, something some in his audience found nearly ridiculous. His reputation was damaged by the associated industry expertise, and his film career never entirely recovered. He had a son with model Diane Markey, the daughter of actress Joan Bennett, in 1966, while still married to Power. Not surprisingly, Power would divorce him in 1968. The same year he played one of his most swoon-worthy parts in Interlude. He portrays a dashing, well-known married conductor who infuriates a reporter and is forced to take a break from acting. He starts dating the younger reporter, but things get complicated. He portrayed a young priest who was being tormented later that year in the shoes of the fisherman. Werner maintained a low profile, perhaps because he was friends with actors like Anthony Quinn, Laurence Olivier, John Gielgud, and Vittorio De Sica. The movie didn't bring the expected success. It seems a little strange that he would want to create another celebrity shipboard film, but in 1976 he would do so with Voyage of the Damned. It is a genuine account of 937 Jewish people leaving Hamburg for Cuba on a German ship over the course of 30 days in 1939. A selected handful were let to disembark in Cuba, but the majority went to various ports across the world where no one would take them. It is heartbreaking when they learn that they will be sent back to Germany and end up dying. After seeing the finished print, Werner remarked, "Due to the fact that the final image was shortened from 4 hours to 2.5, I'm not entirely satisfied with it. Surely some wonderful moments were missed. However, it is an assertion of human freedom and dignity and valuable preaching against the forces." After receiving a second Golden Globe nomination for 1976's Voyage of the Damned, Ampas once more snubbed him. Even though he only appeared in 4 more movies after 1965, Voyage of the Damned ended up being Werner's final movie, which was probably not intended. In 1983 he made his final performance on stage in Germany. His overly sentimental gestures caused him to lose the support of those in Vienna's theatre, and he frequently had disagreements with film directors from Austria and other European nations. He developed an isolated lifestyle as a result of his worsening alcoholism. I'm curious how he got accepted to perform a reading in October 1984 at a hotel in Marburg, Germany, but at the last minute he pleaded for leave, citing being ill. Less than 2 days after his director of Jules Legime, Francois Truffaut, passed away, he was discovered dead from a heart attack the next day in his hotel room. He was 61 years old at the time. Oskar Werner's legacy remains because of his outstanding performances and his standing in Academy Awards history. But can you imagine how he would have felt if he was aware that Truffaut, his greatest rival, had passed away just 2 days earlier at the age of 51, and they practically walked out with each other? He probably wouldn't have liked it, right? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Not only Hollywood studios could make you feel bad, like in Oscar's case. Why Eva Marie Saint felt uncomfortable from Marlon Brando. Watch this video.